Welcome to the Better Biz Academy podcast, the podcast for starting and scaling your online business. If you want to learn how to boost revenue, get more of your time back, and grow your online empire, this is the podcast for you. And now, your host, founder of Six Figure Writing Secrets and Your Way to VA.com, Laura Pennington.
Hello, Laura here, and really excited to talk to you today in this first episode ever of my podcast, all about some of the most common reasons that people struggle when they're starting a freelance writing career. There are a couple of things that you need to have, and then there are also some things that you don't need to have that may be holding you back from actually getting started and moving forward with this. I hear a lot that people are very intrigued by the idea of having a freelance writing career, and it's something they want to put together as a way to make extra money, or perhaps they're thinking about leaving their day job and doing something completely different. And freelance writing is perfect for that. That's definitely one of the reasons that I decided to jump ship, was because my freelance writing career had grown so much and my day job just wasn't fulfilling anymore. It wasn't exciting. It wasn't something that I looked forward to. So for that reason, it became an outlet for me to begin working towards leaving my actual day job. But when I interact with students or interact with people who have just heard of freelance writing, maybe they've heard about it through me, or maybe they've been Googling it and they land on my site and send me an email or something like that. A lot of them go, yeah, but it's way too much work to get started. Now, that is a huge myth. There are definitely businesses out there that require a tremendous amount of work and other materials to get started. There's lots of businesses where you need to throw a lot of money in upfront in order to make this a workable business and ongoing company for you. So let me give you some examples. There's a lot of alternatives when you're thinking about starting an online business. The first one that comes to mind is any multi-level marketing business or company, because they're everywhere. You've probably been pitched that by one of your friends at some point in time. Well, if I'm going to go sell Mary Kay or be involved in any other MLM or network marketing company, I'm going to have to buy inventory, or I'm going to have to push inventory to others. If you're like me, I don't want to be having, sort of random product parties in people's houses where I feel like I'm putting my friends in an awkward position of having to buy from me. So I also would have to invest a lot of money to become a seller with a program like that. In order to receive commissions, you need to sell a certain amount of product. That's just not a good fit for a lot of people. So that's one option when thinking about starting an online business. Okay, your second option is, well, why don't I do something like eBay? I could sell things online on eBay. Okay, great, but eventually you're going to run out of stuff, or your profit margins are going to be so low because you're acquiring this information and then turning around and reselling it. And there's a lot of work involved with a business like that, wrapping and packaging the material, taking it to the post office, keeping track of purchaser, happiness and complaints and things like that. It's just a tremendous amount of work from my perspective. And I'm also going to have to invest some time to at least purchase the materials that I'm going to sell, or, go through my closet and dig up what I'd like to give to my eBay business, but eventually I'm going to run out of that. So for me, those are not very viable options as an online business, because eventually I'm going to hit some sort of major roadblock, or I'm going to be spending so much time on administrative and other tasks that I no longer have the passion to own this business at all. So why freelance writing? A huge reason that I suggest people consider freelance writing is because it's so low cost to get started. You do not need the $5,000 website. You do not need a master's in fine arts. You do not need to have studied at a four-year college creative writing or English or journalism or communication. None of that is required. You probably already have the majority of the tools that you need to be successful as a freelance writer. That is a computer and your brain and an internet connection. Most people already have all those things. You definitely at least have one of them, right? You definitely have the brain. And if you have the writing talent and skill, that truly is a huge piece of the puzzle, being a freelance writer. But compared to other businesses, especially if I was establishing a brick and mortar company, I'd probably have to go out and get a business loan. I'd have to have my credit run. I'd have to take out this $25,000, $50,000 business loan. A lot of new businesses fail, up to 80% or more of new businesses fail within the first year. A growing number of them also fail within 5 or 10 years after that. So that's a huge gamble to take. Whereas something like a freelance writing business is very low risk. You don't have to take out a loan in order to start it. You probably have most of the materials to do it. And I'm not running the risk of this entire business collapsing and it costing me a tremendous amount of money. So if I'm going out there and getting the business loan, I'm always going to have that business loan sort of on my back. Whereas if I'm going out and starting my freelance writing career, I'm going to invest very little, but the potential reward is very high. So for that reason, freelance writing is low risk, high potential reward. Now, freelance writing, I will say, is not for everyone. If you're not comfortable with your writing, you're not going to succeed in this business. I don't want to be, joking around that, everybody can become a freelance writer or any type of freelancer. I mean, someone who has no web development skills probably isn't going to become a web developer unless they apply themselves and learn the material and become very practiced with it. So if you're not comfortable writing, freelancing is not for you in that way. You might want to rely on another skill set you have, or perhaps get started in a career as a virtual assistant because it's not as reliant on your writing and editing ability. But once you have these, basic elements in place to launch a freelance writing career, it's really up to you how much you make. The cool thing about freelancing, you can work 2 hours a week, you can work 10 hours a week, you can work 40 hours or even more a week doing this if you so choose. It really fits in well around other responsibilities because clients primarily only care about you getting something done by a deadline. So when you're trying to make this be a part of your life, when you already have a day job, or when you are a parent and you only have a couple of hours per day to yourself to be doing something that's a business. If you got a job outside of the home where you were working part-time in a retail establishment, you're probably working holidays, weekends, evenings, spending time away from your family. You're commuting there and spending time. Whereas if you're a freelance writer, you can hop on your computer, do your work, and the client doesn't really care when you do it so long as you meet the deadline. So that's something really important and powerful to keep in mind. This freelance writing business works as much as you choose to. So what is going to be your effort that you expend in order to make this be really successful? Now let's dive into some things, you absolutely have to start your freelance writing business. Do not get distracted by all of the marketing or claims that you need to invest in having multiple different pieces, that you need a comprehensive social media strategy, that you need the $5,000 website. You don't need all that. The most important thing for you to do when you start a freelance writing career is get clients. That is more important than anything else because clients pay the bills. They also give you the practice to know if this is for you. They give you the potential to receive referrals and testimonials and grow this business. So getting clients is your number one priority. It is more important than anything else. It is more important than sitting down and putting out tweets to go out or drafting different materials that you might put on your website. Those materials are worthwhile, definitely worth your time at some stage in your business. But one of the strategies that I recommend for new freelancers is to book your first couple of clients and then go from there. Use that small win to boost your confidence, get you some money so that you can sort of inject it back into the business and begin to come up with a comprehensive marketing strategy for you and your business. So number one thing we're focusing on with these key steps we're going to take is getting clients. Do not get distracted by shiny objects and this belief that there are certain things you need to do or not do, because it's so easy to kind of go off the rails with this and get distracted by things that frankly are not worth your attention. So our end goal is getting clients. What do we actually need to get clients? Number one, you need to have writing samples. This really should go without saying. But if I'm hiring a total stranger on the internet and they don't have any feedback, they're brand new, and they have no testimonials, I've never heard of them before, they have not come to me as a personal referral from someone else, the only thing I can judge you on is your writing samples. And if they're good, I'm willing to overlook all of those other missing pieces. And many clients also feel the same way about that. They're willing to say, okay, maybe this person has never worked as a freelance writer before, but everyone starts somewhere and these materials are really, really good. So I'm going to overlook that information in order to sort of move on and have this person work for me and see how the experience goes. So it's okay to have your first job out the gate be reliant almost exclusively on your writing samples, but that highlights why it's all the more important to make sure that they are really, really amazing. When I got started, I had never been paid to write anything before. I spent the time to sit down and crank out 3 really good writing samples. And you might be thinking, well, where do I get started? I've never written before. I don't know what to write about. Pick the industry and the type of content that you're interested in writing about. My free course, which you can find at laurateachesyou.com, is all about how to identify your ideal freelance writing niche. Now, that's something that you may change over time as you get some practice and work with some clients, but it's a good starting point to think about the background you already have and the types of things you're passionate about so that you can use that to build your freelance writing career. The writing samples are so important. I mean, I really cannot overstate the importance of this. And I see so many people submit materials that have grammar and spelling mistakes in them, or were clearly just written very sloppily and very quickly. Why, as a client, would I consider hiring you if you can't even put in the effort to make your writing samples to win jobs? You know, this is the only way you make money as a freelancer. If your writing samples aren't up to par, what reason would I have to think that you're going to give my work any more quality? So number one, writing samples need to be good. Once you've determined your ideal freelance writing niche and industry, go out there and look for other people who do what you do. Think about popular websites and blogs that share the kind of content you're talking about. If you're a white paper writer, go read some white papers. If you want to be a blogger, think about some of the most popular blogs that you read on a regular basis and go study them. You know, what are they writing about? How are they formatting that content? About how long is it? You know, you don't need to reinvent the wheel here. Just go and see what's out there and sort of teach yourself. And consume as many free resources as you can. I did this when I first got started. I taught myself how to be an SEO blog writer. It's now something I teach other people how to do because it's been an extremely lucrative business for me and something I also really enjoy doing. So go out there and consume whatever you can about whatever type of writing that you decide to do. So once you have done the research, then it's time to create your own writing samples. Try to pick something that's in an industry that you care at least a little bit about, that you have some interest in or background in. For me, I picked 3 articles about life insurance only because I'd been working in a life insurance brokerage for 3 years. Now, I use those samples to win jobs writing about weddings and personal injury law and any number of topics that were totally unrelated to life insurance and financial security. But that's the power of a few really well-written writing samples. So it's worth the time to carve out in a day, spend a couple of hours looking at these, have somebody else proofread them, make sure they're very easy for clients to download. All of these things can help tip the scales in your favor when you're a brand new freelancer. So number one thing you absolutely must have as a new freelancer is the writing samples. Now, the second thing that you must have, non-negotiable as a new freelance writer, is a pitch. I don't care whether you're doing cold or warm emails. I don't care whether you're using in-person networking events, whether you're submitting jobs on a board like Upwork, whether you're interacting with people in Facebook groups. Whenever you are putting yourself out there with a marketing tool for your business, you will need to have a pitch. You need to be able to explain to other people what you do. Now, common mistakes that people make with pitches, they focus entirely on themselves. I see this all the time, especially on places like Upwork. When someone sends in a response that has 50 lines of text or multiple paragraphs just talking about how amazing they are, you have not convinced me as the client that you care at all about my business or my business goals. So don't talk only about yourself. Talk about yourself from the perspective of the fact that you're a professional, that you know what you're talking about, but then it's time to merge into this other opportunity of talking about how what you do can actually help me as the business owner and the client achieve my goals. So make sure that your pitch includes that connection. Another common mistake made with these pitches is that they are way too long. I do not need a one-page document all about your background. Someone who either receives these pitches all the time or is on a job board like Upwork where a lot of materials are coming in, simply is not looking at all of that information. So, don't make the mistake of doing that with your clients. Don't overwhelm them. Short, sweet, and to the point. They can contact you if they have further questions. If you do have a website or a LinkedIn profile or an Upwork profile, they can check that out for more information. But we don't need to throw everything at the client out the gate. What you want to do is show them that you're a professional, you know what you're talking about, and draw that connection between what you do and how it helps them accomplish their goals. Don't leave that out. Don't talk just about yourself. Now, the number 3 thing that you're going to need is a little bit different than a tangible written piece. So I've already told you about writing samples. I've already told you about having a pitch. This third part is actually the most challenging for a lot of people to get comfortable with. And that is this idea of being willing to put yourself out there, even though you're going to hear no a lot. And you're going to hear no a lot. You're also going to hear radio silence a lot. Several of my students, more than several, a lot of my students will come to me and say, I'm bidding and bidding and bidding on jobs on Upwork. I'm sending emails. I'm doing cold calls. I'm just not getting any response. So I don't know if these people are interested in me at all, but I'm hearing absolutely nothing. I'm not getting any feedback. So I don't know if what I'm doing is right. Be prepared that that's normal. I probably submitted 20 or 30 bids on Upwork's predecessor, Freelance, before I even landed my first job. That's true, to an extent, even still today. There will be jobs I bid on. I never hear from the client again. That's normal. Not everyone is seeing your information. Not everyone is interested in working with you. Not everyone is ready to hire at this point in time. So don't take it personally if you hear nothing, or if you see that they've just decided not to go with you, or the person has gone with somebody else. Don't take that personally. There's a lot of choice out there, and you're not going to land every client. There's no freelancer who is landing every single client they've ever pitched. So it's okay. Now, if you're consistently getting no, or consistently hearing nothing, and there's not even one client who expresses interest or asks for further information, then we have a problem there, most likely with your writing samples or your pitch. And that's why I told you to do those first, because they are much more important than getting comfortable with this idea of being told no or being ignored. So a lot of times your strategy, your pitch, or your writing samples are part of the problem why you're getting that kind of response. But as time goes on, ideally your business will be growing. You will be hearing no less. However, it can be so hard to put yourself out there when you've put all this effort into creating writing samples. You may have even built a website, and you're finally starting to pitch yourself, and you're just not getting the traction that you wanted. Now, it's an uphill battle at first. You will do a lot of pitching. You will submit for a lot of jobs, and you won't be accepted for the vast majority of them. That's normal. It takes a while to get your footing in this industry. It takes a while to start building that client workload. When I started, I had clients that would order from me once and I'd never hear from them again. That was something I really worked hard to change, and eventually set goals of not just how much business I wanted to book every month in financial terms, but also how much recurring business that I want to book. So I started off by saying, okay, I want at least $500 in recurring contracts, then $1,000, then $3,000, then $5,000, then $10,000 and beyond. So it takes some time to get there. Every freelancer has to go through this growth process. And if that describes you, it's normal. Now, if you're hearing no all the time, of course, time to be a little bit self-reflective and look back at your methods and see what you can change. Now, these are only 3 things that you need to focus on when starting a freelance writing career. There's certainly other elements. How are you going to be marketing? How many hours per week are you going to be dedicating towards this venture? Who are you submitting information to? Who is your ideal client, and are they interested in this content at all? How are you opening that conversation with them? Those things are all important, but I'm going to tell you this: without the willingness to be told no, without writing samples, and without a solid pitch, you're not even getting to that stage. So we want to make sure those things are in place ahead of time. Obviously, it might be the easiest, require the least amount of your time to just simply say out loud, hey, I'm going to be told no a lot. That's okay, because someone is eventually going to say yes. So that's relatively easy to come to terms with. But creating the writing samples, creating your pitch, even putting together your profile on a site like Upwork, these are not things that should be overlooked or something that you should do very quickly. It's well worth your time to sit down, spend the effort, and make sure these are high quality. Have someone else look over your materials to make sure you have no grammar or spelling mistakes. You might think it's a minor issue and that the rest of your work is good enough for the client to overlook it, but the vast majority of times the client sees the mistake right away. Especially anyone with a trained eye for editing or writing will see it immediately and write you off entirely because of it. So it's not worth having a handful of small mistakes. You need to be really, really critical with your writing samples, perhaps the most critical you've ever been with your own work. Shop it out to friends and family. Hire a professional editor on a place like Fiverr or on Upwork. Hire somebody to look over your materials, because we're talking about things that you're creating for free. Yes, you're not getting paid to make these writing samples, but they have the potential to book you hundreds and thousands of dollars worth of business. So if you invested 3 or 5 hours of your time, or a little bit more, depending on the type of, samples you're creating, but that had the potential to pay off in spades in terms of business booked, isn't that worth your time? That's significant ROI when you are able to put that together. So make sure that you make it worth the client's effort to click open your writing samples, to read through your pitch, make it be compelling, because it's really your only calling card and your only selling point when you're a new freelance writer. So these are things that you absolutely must have. I mean, I cannot stress that enough. But there's several other things that you kind of need to keep in mind as you build your freelance business. And we'll cover those things in future episodes. So for those of you who are out there thinking about, how can I start my freelance business? How do I do writing samples? How do I get help with all of this? I do have materials all over my blog to assist you with this. If you're interested in becoming an SEO writer, I have an SEO writing course where I show you writing samples, where I teach you how to make your own. There's tons of free resources out there on the internet as well. Educate yourself and really step up to the plate. I hope this has been helpful for you. And now that you know that there's only 3 things you really have to do and only 2 that require any significant amount of work, you should let the rest of it go for now and begin to put your efforts into that. And then we'll talk about the next stages in a future podcast.
Thanks for tuning in to the Better Biz Academy podcast. Catch Laura again next week at the same time. To learn more about starting a freelance writing career and to access to a resource library of materials to help you land jobs on Upwork, write more quickly, and identify ideal clients, visit www.sixfigurewritingsecrets.com. If you're interested in becoming a virtual assistant but don't know where to start, get free access to the first module of my course, Your Way to VA, and a resource library at www.yourwaytova.com. Until next time, to your freelancing freedom.